Hey beautifuls, if you want more intimacy, connection in your relationship instead of fighting, distance and separation, this live stream is for you. This video, this replay. If you're here live, let me know, say hi. If you're catching the replay, comment replay. Let me know where you're tuning in from around the world. I'm just going to share this live stream and then I'm going to jump on and talk deeply about this because this is something that's come up and really important to share this. Hello, hello. Okay, just going to share this in one more place. We shall jump in. Let me know if it's getting warmer or colder wherever you are in the world, because it's starting to warm up here in Australia and I'm very grateful for that. Very grateful. So I'm curious if it's starting to get a bit cooler where you are in the world around the other side of the globe. If it's a globe, it's a realm. It's a realm. Let's not start that conversation right now. That's not for this live stream. We can do another live stream on that conversation. Okay. So let me just bring up the comments here. Having a proper English summer. Love it. Okay, let me just flick this one on as well. So we're going to pop this on. Yay. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so this video is for you if you want more intimacy and connection in your relationship instead of fighting, distance, and separation. This is definitely for you. So let's get started. There is a difference between conscious and unconscious communication, right? So, and we know that, right? We're very clear as a human, and we are showing this, right? That human with the aura, and we know, we've heard, etc., that, you know, there's differences in the ratio, but we know that most of it is unconscious, subconscious. And the top half, let's say, it's not even half, right? So what is the ratio? There's different opinions about that, but let's say 70-30 or 90-10, right? That 10, I know it's probably back to front for you guys, but so 10 or 30% is conscious and 70 or 90% is unconscious. Now we run at effect of the 70 to 90% because it holds more weight. So in relationship, we can be consciously communicating and, you know, operating, but this holds the weight of what's really going on in your relationship. Now, just checking my notes so I can stay clear on this for you guys. So we're either energetically closed or energetically open or energetically connected or energetically disconnected in our relationship with our partner. And this can go for any relationship. It doesn't have to be intimate. It could be, you know, family, friends, etc. And so when we have two people in relationship, there's, I guess, a bond or a connection, if you may, where we feel connected to this person, right? So we're either energetically open and connected and everything's flowing, or we're going to feel distant and separated. So in this, like, and when something happens, right, it sort of like closes off, and it starts to, I want to say, let's say clog up, right? And so there's a bit of a block. So now there's like a disconnect or a separation in the relationship. We're either fully connected, flowing, or we're closed and cut off, distant, disconnected. Now, nobody's perfect and every relationship goes through this, but the way to, I want to say, instantly reconnect this is via conscious communication and understanding your own triggers and your own wounds. Conscious communication shifts, reconnects, and healing occurs. Reconnecting, because if there's a block here, the intimacy won't be as hot, won't be connected, there'll be a disconnect, and that's when people can start wandering because we're looking outside to try and heal this wound rather than turning within. So conscious communication is key in this relationship, in staying connected. Now, I want to give you a prime example here, okay? And I've got permission to share this. So I want to be able to share this with you because I was so conscious of it. And I was fine with it, but the subconscious holds more weight. Now it's been really, it's such a gift for me to be able to be in a conscious relationship now and actually witness these aspects playing out. It's what I've always known in my heart of hearts that a relationship is supposed to be. Yeah, conscious communication equals intimacy 100%. Yeah, into me, I see you, right? We know that intimacy, see, I see you. Thank you very much for that. So, and as I said, I got permission to share this. So having a lot of experience with unconscious, unhealthy, toxic relationships in my past, and I was also operating at an unconscious, toxic level. And by the way, the only reason a relationship is toxic is because one person is not trusting their intuition about what is right and wrong in this relationship and either staying or going or consciously communicating to heal this aspect. Because as I've always said, right, any relationship, absolutely any relationship can go toxic and unhealthy, and then any relationship can also heal and reconnect, but both parties have to be willing to do that and connect and do the work, etc. So if this is resonating with you, give me some hearts, let me know. And if you've got any questions along the way, pop them in the comments and I will answer them. So, all right, so let me share this example here. As I said, I've got permission to share this and I'm very grateful because it's such a key factor that I've experienced so much, and I've always known that just if we could just communicate this, it would shift and heal. But we also need to be conscious of our wounds, right? A conscious relationship or a relationship that's willing to work, that person needs to have a self-awareness and consciousness on board of what their own triggers and wounds are. Now, given the fact that everybody's got triggers, everybody's got wounds. It doesn't matter how evolved or conscious or enlightened you are, or how much work or not how much work you've done in the past or not. That if you guys watched my other live stream the other day, we remember that the wounds will be playing out in the aura, right? The wounds are always sitting there, and there's like complete healing, and then there's also layers of healing that they can be triggered at any time, right? Now, we can heal wounds 100%, but there's always layers. Now, when a fresh wound, if you may, has been uncovered, there will be a lot of reaction and stuff, but that person can go inside and look at that and heal that. How do we actually do that? What does a real life scenario look like? I'll give you one. So at this point in time, Shane and I are not living together. However, like we're very connected, obviously, whatever, that's how we do it. So in essence of every morning we've been texting each other, calling each other, or looking at these, like staying connected, yeah? Okay, I just want to answer this question because these Instagram ones will run off my screen. So this is a very awesome question. Old wounds from past abusive relationships can totally seep into healthy relationships, but how do we heal that? Awesome question. Let me give you this example to show you how this heals, right? So in Trust Intuition, right, this is what I do in Trust Intuition is I teach you consciousness to become more psychic, to heal wounds, and to understand yourself to become conscious. Like in Trust Intuition, we're literally healing wounds. And as we heal wounds, we become more conscious, we become more psychic. You sense and feel energy anyway. Every single person does. Everyone's like, what do you want for dinner? Every single human on this planet's like, oh, I feel like they're tuning in to their intuition, to their soul about what their body wants. Everybody's got this, okay? Everybody's got this. So nobody is not conscious. It's just whether you're training your skills or not. So Trust Intuition is where we train, I train you up, I do all this work. So all the things that I'm teaching, like sharing with you, all the exact tools are in Trust Intuition, okay? Early bird is increasing next week. So comment trust below, or you can find the link in my bio. So a real life example of how past wounds can interfere into current healthy relationships, right? Because as I said, there's always layers of healing, right? There's always layers. There's always, even if we've done deep healing work, like, whatever wounds are sitting in the aura, okay? And in Trust Intuition, we heal this, and then you've always got the tools. And because you've healed it, you start to understand, oh, that's what that was, right? As I always say, so I'm sidetracking a little bit, but to explain this, as I always say, like what came first, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Was the wound there, and then it created our brain thoughts and patterns that we then vibrate into the universe? Or did we start thinking that and then the wound was there, right? What came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, it's kind of irrelevant to the fact that when we also heal a wound, so let's say we've healed the wound, okay? So that's healed now. It's not there anymore, it's healed. And your whole aura and body is like, healed, it's all healed, your energy's fine. But if you don't do the mindset work, then those thought patterns are still going to be there. So what comes first, the chicken or the egg, blah, blah, blah. We need to be, there's a lot of depth of healing with that. But the point that I'm sharing that for is that it's like, yes, there's different layers of healing. Yes, there's wound healing, but then there's also energetics and physical muscle memory, okay, that needs to be worked on, okay? It's a bit like when you get as I've talked about, you get a cut, or, it's like if you don't clean that wound, it's going to get infected, right? But if we clean it, and it takes a little bit of time to heal, but, it eventually covers back up because it's always trying to find its homeostasis. So when we, so the triggers in relationship, right? And sometimes like there's definitely, whatever the right word is, there's definitely basis in taking time after abusive relationships to work on yourself. Then it gets to a point where you've done enough work that it's time to come together in union to do the next layers, right? Like, yeah, there's time alone, and then there's time in relationships, like to work on stuff. So, okay, so let me give you this real life example. So Shane and I are not currently living together. And the way that we've been staying connected is, obviously phone and obviously seeing each other when we can, etc. But, the sort of, when we wake up, the good morning texts, the conversations, etc. How do I explain this? So just this week, we're in the last week, he said that he's like, oh, when I wake up, he started doing a different routine, right? So instead of looking at his phone first thing in the morning, he's like, well, because he's explaining all the brainwave states when you wake up, and I'm like, yes, I totally get it. Not looking at your phone in the morning is the best fucking thing ever to create your entire life, let alone support your relationships, blah, 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 blah. Like everybody knows that, right? Worst thing ever, you can open your phone and scroll on the phone. You've already lost your day if you do that, right? Your energy, you're prostituting yourself out to the world already, etc., etc. So I totally got it. I was like, understand, babe, awesome. And he's got this beautiful morning routine where he doesn't look at his phone and then connects in with himself, does all his things, does his routine, and then he'll connect with me. Now, on a conscious level, I was like, I 100% get this. Go and do it. Awesome. I 100% get it. But immediately I felt a bit of a sting. And so one of my wounds, let's say probably one of my biggest wounds is abandonment, right? There's two main wounds, abandonment or invasion, right? And then everything sort of stems off that, and there's so many different intricate parts. So in Trust Intuition, I give, no phone o'clock. Yes, I love it. I teach all the different aspects and types of wounds because they all play into different levels of consciousness and different ways we interact in the world, etc., etc. So, but anyway, there's two main ones, abandonment wound or invasion, right? Invasion is obviously invading, and then abandonment. So anyway, yes, babe, awesome, got it. My conscious mind, my understanding, everybody fucking knows it's the best not to be on your phone first thing when you wake up, because you want to be like, and I love in myself, I love receiving, like when I wake up, I just sort of like stay in that half dream state, like just receiving information. I get a lot of downloads, like I love it, like I totally get it. But it stung a little bit, right? So this little wound in the subconscious had been triggered in myself. Everything was fine, right? But then I think it must have been after 3 days, and this is like a 3-day, you know, I talk about all the different healing timelines as well. So in Trust Intuition, I go into depth of all the different healing timelines because they're so important to look at. I don't believe time heals all wounds. I believe that healing wounds heals wounds. A bit like if you don't clean that cut, it's going to get infected, right? I mean, like maybe it wouldn't get infected, but you get the point, right? Like time doesn't heal wounds, we have to heal them. So, understood. I appreciate sharing your own experiences with it. Thank you. So it was triggered a little bit. And I was like, all good. Like, and I was conscious of it straight away. On the first day, I was conscious of it, right? And then the next day and the next day. And I'm just going to pull up this message here from us just this morning and so it was like the third day, because there's like 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, but then there's also other timeline like portals that can really trigger stuff and or help us heal. And so the third day, so yesterday, and I was so conscious as well that it was like the 3-day window out of the full moon, but this full moon really knocked me. Like I always talk about the 3-day windows, 3 days leading up to the full moon and 3 days afterwards. It's kind of like we're living into this thing, and it's like, whoa, and we come out. Like it can be really intense, the 3 days before, 3 days after. So it was in this period of time as well, and he's like, I need time off my phone. So he's got his own process going on, and as I said consciously, I was like, yeah, I'm good with that, right? But it's done. So on the third day, plus I had, you know, all this other stuff going on. But on the third day, you know, this had started to, let's say, turn a bit dark, right? The resentment started to build. Why? Because this particular wound was of abandonment. And even though I'm good, I know how to take care of myself. This is all the things we learn in Trust Intuition of how to heal the core woundings, but then also all the other pieces that come with removing a wound. This is where I always talk about don't just fucking cut cords, because if you cut cords, you're leaving it open. There's a reason there's a cord there in the first place. You need to heal the wound, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, lots of layers. So even though I was conscious of this wound has started to get a little bit dark and a little bit dark. Now, what was also happening on a different level is that we had also started to feel this bit of a separation, right? Energetically, something wasn't sitting right. I was very conscious of what it was. It's my fucking abandonment wound. And, you know, every morning he's like messaging me and it's like, hey babe, I love you, like all this stuff. And like this, I read this in the book, and the fucking book's so interesting. Like, I'm really loving hearing about it. But I'm also like, as the time went on, I was like, I fucking want to hear about it. Like yesterday I was like 3-day window of the full moon, all my own stuff going on. And I was like, no. And that wound had really started to, you know, be like amplified. Okay, I won't say that bit yet. So it started to be amplified. And he's like, you know, if you want to have a quick phone call. And I'm like, I don't have fucking time to work this morning. Like, I was actually really, I was just like, I've got too much to do. I've got to drive today. I've got to go out. Like, I just, like, no, I've got a really tight schedule. I can't talk. And he was fine with it, right? But this was the wound talking. I was like, nah. And then I didn't feel good yesterday either. Now, was it this wound? Or was it other stuff combined with the wound, etc.? Probably a number of things, etc. But I took care of myself yesterday. I was like, no, can't talk. And then after, you know, I was getting ready and stuff. And then after I got ready and I looked after myself, I rang him and I was like, I'm sorry, I was a bit short then. This is what's going on. I'm really full today. Would love to talk more, but we're going to have to talk tonight, whatever. So anyway, that was that. That was yesterday. I had a pretty rough day yesterday, but I took care of myself, took time off work, took care of myself, did what I needed to do. This morning, same thing again. He like did his little routine thing, and then, you know, and I'd let myself sleep in as well. So usually I'm up at 4 or 5 working. I love it. But one of the most supportive things I can do is not set an alarm and let myself naturally wake up. And I love those mornings, especially when I don't have to work, I don't have deadlines to get up to, etc. And so I naturally woke around 6:37, and by then he'd sent me a message because he's also up at 4 or 5, and I love that about us. We're like up with the sunrise, dawn actually, before anyway. And I was like, good morning, I love you too. Sounds like a solid, nurturing, nourishing morning routine you have there. Like, it was a kind one with little emojis. But when I sent it, consciously, I was like, sounds like a solid, nurturing and nourishing morning routine you have there. And I was like, 3 more sleeps to go, can't wait to see you. But underneath, I was seething. I could feel it in myself, in the message. I was like, ooh, Hannah, that was a little bit of a tail whip there in your energy. So it wasn't consciously. Someone who's unconscious would be like, okay, cool. But for those of us who are fucking sensitive and understand energy and can feel it everywhere all the time, this separation and this was really starting to play havoc. Now, here is the key and the differentiation between having a full-blown fight, maybe not today, but coming up, or consciously communicating and reconnecting without the distance. If you are not conscious of your own shit, right? And this is where psychic development, personal development, all things that I teach you in Trust Intuition gives you these skills, right? We're literally training your skills in this realm. Because if not, you're going to run unconsciously or just consciously, right? But this is what's actually running the relationships in your life and every other area in your life. If you are not conscious of what's actually running the show, and in myself, I felt it. I was like, sounds like a nice, nurturing, nourishing routine you got there. I was like, fuck you. I actually don't care about your fucking morning routine. Because I felt abandoned by him 5 days ago because he changed our morning routine connection time. And it triggered this. And day after day after day after day, this had been building. Now, if I didn't, right, that little tail whip, okay, if I didn't catch that in myself this morning, sounds like a nurturing, nourishing routine you have there. Like, or what I was really saying was I don't fucking care, actually. Now, this live stream wouldn't be happening if I've had a very full week at the start of this week just because of the full moon and everything. And like, it's always a big week on the full moon, of course, right? But like, there's extra work, except for me, maybe for other people. Anyway, the point is because I hold the full moon ceremony. So it's a big energetic and more physical work, of course. And I just didn't have the space to go, hey, like, I really support your morning routine, but I actually feel like it triggered my abandonment, right? But I just didn't because I was busy and maybe whatever. And actually I was just like, you know, in myself, because I'm like, I want a nurturing morning routine that I don't have to look at the phone. And, you know, and it wasn't, and I don't always look at my phone, but if I've got stuff surfacing, I tend to be a bit more, you know, like addicted to the phone, if you may, until I like separate myself and go and look within, right? We all do it. It's part of the waves, right? Learning to ride the waves. Also something we teach in Trust Intuition. So comment trust below if you want the details. You can find it, the link in my bio. Investment is increasing middle of next week. So, okay. So with the tail whip, okay, this is like 5 days later. When I felt the tail whip this morning, in my text to him, I was like, in myself, I was like, Hannah, if you don't communicate to him about this now, it's not going to end well. Probably wouldn't because it's him and it's a very different relationship. But I was like, I need to say something today. I can't let this go on anymore. Now, the fucking beautiful thing that I love about this man and this relationship is that he is conscious. He has done the work. He is conscious of his shit, right? Now, if two people are willing to communicate and one brings awareness to the other, it can shift. And this is where I said to you in the last live stream that it doesn't have to be Like, you know, there can be a really conscious person and an unconscious person. I know this sounds really judgmental, just for ease of explaining these energetics. Let me go here for a moment. If there's a really conscious person and a really unconscious person in relationship, the relationship still can work if the unconscious person accepts the conscious person and their extreme rapid growth all the time, and if this conscious person can accept this unconscious person just being happy with their unconsciousness, right? Like, it does work, but there has to be that mutual agreement with you both, right? So when, you know, with this tail whipping, so I, you know, send in voice messages, or we call, whatever, but I sent in voice messages and I was like, hey, I trust that you're not going to take this the wrong way. I really need to voice this to you because I felt my own tail whip towards you this morning in the text, and I don't want that between us. And so I explained what I'm explaining to you here, right? That, you know, really consciously totally get the morning routine, not looking at phone, worst thing ever. But it did trigger my abandonment, and I felt this the day it happened. I was very conscious of it, but I just haven't spoken to you about, and I can feel this tail whip building, and I don't want that between us. And he replied back, and he was like, oh my God, I am so grateful that you brought this up, because he could feel something was off, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it, right? And so it was like, I couldn't put my finger on it, but I felt the same. He was like, yeah, that's how we stay connected when we're not together physically. But he started feeling disconnected. Now, it's really interesting that he could share that level where he couldn't feel what it was. Like, he couldn't put his finger on it, but he could feel it. Now, what I want to say, quote unquote, what that was because it was technically my wound that was being triggered. That's why he couldn't put his finger on it, but he could feel the distance starting to build, right? So he could feel this distance, this gap starting to build. And so, you know, because it was technically my wound that had been triggered, I was sort of, I want to say I was creating the distance, if you may. Like, I was the one, you know, sort of shutting off more because technically he abandoned me, right? And with that conscious awareness, like, so he could feel that I was pulling away, if you may. He could feel that distance, but he couldn't quite put his finger on what that was. Because this is what happens in a relationship where there's two conscious people, or even you know, in the unconscious conscious relationship, one person can feel the stuff and the other person might not be conscious of their wounds, but they've been triggered, and so they just pull back and pull back and pull back. Now, what happens in the pullback, a bit like the bow and arrow, right? What happens in the pullback is that in a natural homeostasis, we want connection, we want love, we want to feel that connection and intimacy with our partner, or in any relationship, we want to feel connected, right? It's a natural human effect to have that homeostasis balance, right? We all agree on that. So in that sort of pullback, in, let's say, in a normal, I don't know, in a relationship that's not mentioned right this second, let me just explain what happens. So if a person, you know, got triggered, they just pull back and they're unconscious that they've done that, okay, because their wound's being triggered. Now, what happens in that is that they're actually protecting themselves. They don't want to get hurt anymore because, oh, fuck, I've been here before. This man's going to pull away, and now I'm, you know, I'm not going to, it's going to end. And like, whatever stories, right, whatever stories start running through the head, okay, and this is where it's a two-way street. It's not just mindset that heals something, it's the wound clearing and the mindset, okay? So yes, we can rewrite our reality, but if that wound's holding weight in our 90% subconscious, it's gonna fucking hold weight, okay? So when a person pulls back, all the stories start being triggered of the old memories of all the past patternings that happened. So this person's gonna pull away, pull away, pull away. Now this person, on the other hand, can also feel the pull away, but can't actually feel what exactly is going on here, but they can feel it, right? And this happens so frequently in relationships that, you know, one person's quote unquote more conscious than the other. But what I'm experiencing with Shane in this instance, which was awesome for me to learn this, is because it was technically my wound, that's why he couldn't quite place his finger on it, but he could feel something was off and he felt the disconnection. He didn't actually like that disconnection, right? He could feel it. Anyway, so So this is where the stories start running, and this is where I could feel the tail whip, because I was like, oh, and I was, like I said, I was so conscious of it, but I still sent the message like, oh, that's nice of you, like having a nice routine. I don't fucking care, actually. Like, you abandoned me and now you're gonna fucking leave me, right? My story in relationships, but the rewrite and the consciousness with that. So when he said that, and I was really grateful, and I was definitely nervous to share this with him, because in my past relationships, my also past experience is that when I communicate this, because I'm so clear about this is my gift, but this is also my 20 years of what I teach in Trust to Intuition, of living and breathing this work, of everything I teach in Trust to Intuition, you become this psychically clear, right? And you understand when something, like, you're just clear, okay? We can still run at effect. We can be so spiritually aware and conscious, but we don't have the clarity of what's going on. But we can feel stuff, we don't have the clarity. And this is where Trust Intuition teaches you the clarity. So you're not living in confusion and turmoil and what's going on, and there's bickering back and forth and blah, blah. You actually got the clarity, and you can shift and clear it in a conversation, right? This is what Trust Intuition teaches you. So comment trust below, or you can find the link in my bio. The investment does increase next week for Trust Intuition. So okay, really important point here. So in a relationship that's not me and Shane, for example, to explain this, when this pullback's happening, and as I said, it's like the bow pulling back, because we really want, we naturally want communication, we want intimacy and connection, we want homeostasis in our reality, in our relationships, in our reality. And so, but if this person is scared or gonna get hurt, like, they will pull back, or patterns start, so all starting to be triggered again, like, and this person's like, what's happening, come back. And so this sort of conscious / unconscious pullback, this is where fights start to happen. Okay, if there's not this conscious understanding of what's going on, this is where fights start to happen. Now, I learned this years ago, that when there's a relationship, if somebody's pulling back, or if somebody's feeling peace, and this person's not used to feeling peace in a relationship, and they're used to fighting, or when they were growing up, their mum or father was very abusive and always yelling, or always fighting, or always like that fighting in an unconscious, unhealthy family environment, whether it's fighting, yelling, abuse, toxicity, on whatever level, that becomes normal for you. And so your body system, mental, spiritual, emotional, physical, energetic, is used to, let's say, abusive, fighting, narcissistic energy as a way to connect, because that's normal for you. Healthy love is not something that you grew up with, for example. And so that's where the big rewrite needs to come in, okay, in all facets, and clearing wounds, and then energetically rebalancing to homeostasis to learn healthy love, etc. So when stepping from an unhealthy relationship to a healthy relationship, as I said, wounds will still be triggered, but you can actually catch them, heal them, shift them. But in an unconscious relationship, when we're still coming to awareness of these pieces, what's happening here is, in this pullback, this is, as I said, where fights start to happen, because if this person's pulling back and this person starts to fight, or this person pulls back and it's like, well, that's great. I actually don't fucking care about your morning routine, because, you abandoned me, like, deep down underneath, that's what's going on. I was like, yeah, that's great. I don't fucking care. Like, I'll do that. I don't care. And then what I'm subconsciously doing is trying to get him to go, oh, what's wrong, baby? Like, or whatever. Or I might purposely start a fight because I can feel his distance just from his healthy morning routine. But this wound starts playing into effect. And it's like this wound starts then going, oh, what are you doing? Oh, what about this? Oh, what about this? Oh, you're not where you said you were? Oh, this, like, and it'll just start triggering, and then the fight starts happening. Why do you need to know where I am? What? I don't need to tell you what I'm doing every second of the day, like, but this wound starts playing out, and there's the abandonment, and then we fucking start a fight, and then we have sex, and then we make up, and everything's rosy. That's not what happened between me and Shane. That's an old pattern in relationship that usually happens, is very frequent, because any fighting in relationship is a communication issue, and is also trying to reconnect to the person, trying to recreate that homeostasis feeling, because that feeling. And so when you're also stepping out of unhealthy love into healthy love, it's like rewriting that framework of fighting abuse is love, right? That's a big rewrite that needs to happen. And then once you've done that, so to speak, you can catch these wounds, understand what's going on, and then you can heal it without the fight. That's what we want, right? That's what we want. Give me a yes if that's what you want, okay? That's what we want. We want to reconnect with conscious communication to re-find the homeostasis, intimacy, and beautiful connection and love that we have with that person. Because we all do, that's why we're with them. But it's understanding the dynamics, whose wounds being triggered, etc., so that you can work with this. So let me share now how Shane and I worked through this morning with a simple couple of voice messages where I actually had said, hey babe, that message I sent to you, so I was owning my shit, okay? I was owning the fact that I was so conscious that I was like, that's a nice morning routine, but actually it was underneath seething. And this is where I say fuck forgiveness, because you'll be like, yeah, I forgive, but if you're still seething underneath with the wounds and stuff that hurt you, that's not actual forgiveness, right? So, okay, so how did Shane and I actually work through this in a conscious communication? Is I said to him, I was just like, I own my stuff, told him all that. And he was like, oh, that's what's going on. And I just love it, because I didn't actually understand this part, that because it was technically my wound that was triggered, he couldn't place his finger on it, which was so interesting for me, in understanding and working through this sort of energetics for a long time in my life, doing all this work, and it was last year, so probably about June last year, I had a big breakdown, and I was fell to my knees in the paddock, which is tending when I'm like, nature help me, mother nature help me. It was I realized that I felt like I've done all the healing, spiritual, conscious work that I could do on my own. I've been on my own for a very long time, here and there, bits of relationships that were just not aligned. But ultimately I've been on my own for a very long time, and I just felt like I've done all the work that I can do on my own, right? And then this man's turned up. I'm so fucking grateful. So, and that part around him not being able to put his finger on it because it was technically my wound that was triggered was just so fascinating, and I'm so grateful for that. So we ended up having a couple of voice messages, and then we called, and he was really grateful because he could feel my distance, right? He could feel that distance, couldn't put his finger on it. And he's like me, really loving, just always being, feeling connected to each other. And it's a whole body feeling of staying connected to a person, right? Otherwise, the other thing that can happen in this is that this distance or separation, if you may. So let's say it doesn't end up going into a full-blown fight, but usually eventually it does, because it just keeps building. The scar layers, the walls keep wobbling, because normal human homeostasis wants that flowing connection. Nature flows, it's always connected, right? So when there's a damn wall building up, well, it's going to crack, and that's when the explosions happen, right? So to keep that natural flow happening, and what he said, he's like, my energy has shifted, I feel much lighter, I had this uncomfortable feeling, and I couldn't work out what it was coming from. And he owned his stuff. So in the calls, he's like, because I said to him, I said, me telling you this, and this is the part for me was very vulnerable for me to speak consciously to him about my very aware of all these things. It's 11:11 as I say this. I was very nervous. I knew he would receive it because of who he is, and where I understand who he is now, we're this far into the relationship. And I knew that I could speak to him like this, but I also was like, I trust you understand where I'm coming from when I share this with you, and all this awareness of my wounds, etc., and how I spoke to him this morning. And that was the tail whip, and I'm just trying to get connection because I didn't voice it a couple of days ago. Usually I voice things straight away and it shifts and clears, but for whatever reason I just left it, whatever. Anyway, and I said to him, I said, I trust, I'm not saying this to you for you to change your morning routine, because I am so conscious that not picking up the phone first thing in the morning is so healthy for us in all ways. So he was healthily taking care of himself, as any person in relationship should be. We must take care of ourselves. We can't rely on the other person, or some bonus if they are, but that's usually because energetically we've done the work and we've learned how to take care of ourselves. So that's when we attract the healthy relationship. Also something that I teach you in Trust Intuition. So comment trust below if you want the details. You'll see it on the You'll see link in bio, etc. So just this comment on Instagram, Dark Queens. So many guys talk to me and have an initial attraction, but all of a sudden they lose the spark. Why is this happening? Also, wherever I go, people start coming more to that place. It's kind of an energy that I have. Yeah, we have a certain energy. We have a light. So the initial attraction, the thing is that when you have an attraction to a person, it's probably a whole nother live stream I could do on that. When you have an attraction to a person, if like, you know, it's like we're learning who these people are. Actually, it is another live stream actually. I'll just screenshot your comment there and I'll do, oops, oh no, that's not how we screenshot. Hang on a sec. Hopefully that's still live. I know I just fucked it up. That's actually a whole nother live stream there. So I'll do another live stream on that because I'm going a little bit off topic with what I want to talk about here specifically. So, but awesome question, because that's something that happens a lot, but I just realized that's a whole nother conversation. So let me stay here for a moment. So Shane and I, as I said, he had this uncomfortable feeling, couldn't work out what it was coming from. And I, said to him, I'm not saying this to you for you to change your routine. Now, my experience with unhealthy or mismatched relationships in the past is that when I would voice and communicate, right, I've always said the thing that heals the world is communication and fixes relationships is communication. Obviously, we need our own healing. But I said what I've experienced in me sharing my conscious understanding of what's going on in the relationship, that in the past has been met with reaction. Why? Because I'm triggering the truth of the wound. Now, if that man or woman in the relationship is not conscious of their own stuff and how their own stuff played into it, they will take it personally, they will react, they blame, it's you're the one that's fucked up, you're the narcissistic one, you need the work, you need the counseling, because they simply can't, number one, they don't have the conscious awareness to understand their own stuff, and that's why there can be ping pong in relationships. Because in that sense, I would be then like, then I'd be like, no, I'm just trying to explain or share this, and then they're still reacting, so they've reacted and then they won't hear anything and blah, 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 blah. But with Shane, it was really awesome because he actually received what I was sharing. And it actually made sense to him because he could feel something was off, but he was open to hearing the dynamics of what was actually going on. And I was like, and I knew he would, but I was still a little bit nervous sharing that, as we go along. So, okay. And he says, thank you so much for communicating to me. You helped me see what it was. And now we're back to full homeostasis, flowing communication, like everything, right? Because I've, and the thing about that wound, if I hadn't done, deeper healing work over the years on my abandonment wound, because it will show up in many places, many facets, many, areas, etc. And there's different layers of it, right? But because that's something that I've been aware of in my past patterns and relationships, right? Relationships are a mirror that will bring up stuff for deeper levels of healing and different layers of healing and more conscious psychic awareness to keep the flow going, is that by me sharing that in that conscious awareness, that healed it, right? And we have that reconnection back. That distance is gone. The intimacy and the flowing, love, I love you. But it's like a full body love, not like, oh yeah, I love you, underneath. No, we've got that full conscious connection happening there, right? Okay, is there anything else that I need to share about that? I thought there was. Okay. Yeah, I've got Instagram and Facebook going at the same time. Let me know if this has resonated with you and helped you understand those dynamics. I just thought that there was one more thing that I needed to say about that. Oh yeah, I'm just going to bring up my notes. Here we go. Okay. Oh yeah. So if we don't communicate when we feel that first initial thing coming up, like I said, this happened a few days ago, right? Sorry, just this question here. Why are Capricorns somewhat unlucky in relationships? And I'm like, nah, it doesn't matter what star sign you are. And trust intuition helps you to navigate your own self and then attract someone who matches your own self. I believe that anybody can have a full conscious relationship if that person's willing to do the work and then have their radar on for the right person. Because all these people are just the wrong people, and so I'm going to do another live stream on that. It's a brilliant question. So in a couple of days or so, I'll speak on that for sure. Okay, so yeah, so if we don't communicate when that comes up, as I said, like the very first day, you know, I felt it because, you know, it was like, oh, no message at 4 a.m. Like because we both get up at the same time, we both have coffee, work, we love it, right? It's like we're so in alignment, absolutely in alignment with everything. And I was like, oh, and I knew straight away, I was like, oh, my abandonment. But of course, I'm like, that's a fucking healthy thing. It's a good thing to not be on our phones in the morning. Like, I get it, right? So I left it. But as I said, as I've shared, this started building. So if we don't communicate when we first have that awareness of what's going on, it will build and it will start coming out as snappy communication or like little digs or, you know, and this happens a lot in relationship, and some relationships live in that as normal. Maybe that's okay for you, but if you want to have a relationship that has this depth of communication, conscious awareness and understanding, this is trust your intuition. Trust your intuition is for you. The early bird is increasing next week. You can comment trust below and I can send it to you, or find the link in my bio. Because these little nuances and, you know, these energetics are so important to understand, because the thing is that you're sensitive, you're highly sensitive, you're psychic, you're intuitive, you're aware, but it takes another level of training to understand the depth of where these are coming from and how it's playing out in relationship, and how to keep that connection and fluidity with your relationship, rather than these walls building and then snap, and then we know what happens, right? If a person is not conscious of that and working with that, you know, then that's where the relationship just lives in, they just settle. They settle for unconsciousness in the relationship. Nobody's ever fully conscious. We wouldn't be on this plane if we are, right? Yes, my tattoos are for real. You can find the About Me highlight, and I've got a whole explanation of the tattoos. Yes, they're real. It's so funny. My dad didn't realize they were like real for quite some time, and someone must have pointed it out to him. And then like he said to me, he's like, oh, you know, that on your face, like you just draw them on for like your live streams and stuff, right? And I was like, yeah, Dad, yeah, I just draw them on. And then he realized I was being sarcastic, and he was like, oh fuck, they're real. Yeah, they're real. Yeah. Okay. So how do I earn money? So if you go to my Your First Million highlight in the live stream, you can see it there. Okay. All right. So imagine more connection, intimacy instead of fighting, distance and separation in your relationship. This is what this live stream has been about. I am just checking if there is anything else that I need to cover in this live stream. Oh yeah. And so the other little piece, I knew there was something to just sort of explain this, right? That, like, if we look at love in a relationship, like love and feeling connected to somebody, it's not a physical thing, is it? Like, sure, like your love languages, buy flowers, what, like, you know, there's that, but the feeling, it's a feeling, right? So it's not something we can tangibly hold, but it's a feeling. It's an energetic feeling. Like, what do you want for dinner? Oh, I feel like it's a feeling, right? Love is a feeling. You can't see it, like love languages aside for a moment, but it's a feeling, right? When we feel, and even when the love languages are playing into it, we feel that love from that person and or from ourselves, right? And hence why understanding and having these energetic awarenesses of when it's closed, why that's like the arrow pulling back and then it's like bang, like let's have a fight to like try and reconnect. No, let's have a conscious communication and like save our energy, let alone our relationship, and actually like, you know, do what we're here to do. So if this resonates with you, let me know. Share this with somebody who might need to hear this and might just save their relationship. And I will see you very soon with the next installment on these pieces, because I fucking love sharing about these energetics in relationships. I've been doing this for many, many years, and I shall see you guys really soon. Love you.